All right, guys, welcome back to the Social Blueprint Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Matt. This is Essendon. Last week we were talking about, what was it? It was more so talking about the handshake, right? The power of the handshake, the power of physical touch, what that can do for a relationship in a work setting.
Sure.
And I think today we're going to be talking about the importance of sports. So feel free to take it away.
Yeah. Last week we had a beautiful discussion and we kind of dwelled on the topic, of human contact, human relationship, building trust, right? And I think it's a good segue now into sports, right? And the advantages of sports in society and all the good things that they can do. And then we'll touch on a little bit about the negative aspect of sports as well. But
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of good things. You yourself, you're soccer.
Yes, former soccer player. Played high level elite, and for anyone who doesn't know, that's just kind of the higher level when you're a kid. They put you in an academy, and typically when you're in that academy, you're kind of on the road to play.
Right.
Professional, semi-professional. So you learn a lot of good things. It really is kind of like an institution, and they teach you basic discipline, camaraderie, all that stuff that we'll probably be talking about today. So I'm curious, did you play sports? Like, what did you play when you were younger?
I was born in Guyana, South America, and it's a small country, less than 1 million people. And back when I was a kid in the early 80s, Guyana and sports, there were not many sports that were part of the youth programs in Guyana in the school system, with the exception of maybe cricket.
Right.
So cricket was brought to Guyana from India, right? But I don't know, did it start in India or did it start in the UK? I'm not sure about the origins. Don't quote me on that. But I know that from India came cricket, and that was what the kids played in school. I never got into it because I just never mentally got a hold of the sport. I thought it was very complex.
Right.
I didn't understand it, so therefore I didn't play it. But when I was like 7, 8 years old, right before I came to the U.S., we had track and field in Guyana, and we did some long jumps and some, regular track and field, but nothing crazy. Yeah. Nothing like the Jamaican athletes that you hear of, like Usain Bolt. But Guyana, I don't think has ever been part of the Olympics. Maybe 1 or 2 athletes eventually, but I don't remember seeing a Guyanese athlete in the Olympics. And so when I came to the U.S., though, I can go into that another time, but part of me getting acclimated to the environment here was because of sports. Sports did do something for me that allowed me to get more acclimated and accustomed to the culture here in the U.S. It kind of broke the barriers down because the first 6 months of being in school, all the students and the teachers thought I was mute. And that was in the 4th grade. And then when I got into the 5th, 6th grade, then I would go slowly. I kind of got accustomed, and it was like I wasn't like, they don't need an alien,
Right.
I mean, more ways than one.
Yeah.
But I was
Stranger.
I was a stranger in the Bronx, New York, and one thing that got me just talking to the other kids was during lunch we would go outside and play touch football. And so I have a score from touch football. Yeah, touch football. Basically, I hit the concrete so hard, and raised my elbow. It was like.
Did you always catch it?
I think so. I think that the kids didn't look at me as an athlete.
Right.
But there was one game I remember in 5th grade. I went outside and then they didn't have, they needed one more player, and reluctantly they chose me. So I went out there, and I made a nice catch. And I got a touchdown. Don't ask me how I caught the ball. I don't know. It's just like this thing just over. But it was a good feeling. And the same thing with basketball. So football, touch football, and in the winter months when it would snow, I remember PS27. We used to, during the snowstorms, we would go to school because it's not like Virginia where, there's a chance snow, so let's close the school.
Right.
Closed, so we go to
You're
school.
going to school no matter what.
And then, on a day like that, the teachers would allow us to leave a bit early, and we would go in that schoolyard and we would play touch football in the snow.
The best.
Yeah, that's how I had a camaraderie with the other students, and that was the only thing I could say besides video games eventually.
Yes. Yeah.
That made me feel comfortable in that environment because I was a stranger. It was culture shock for me. But and then later middle school to high school, and I got into playing basketball every single day. But I think that's what we're trying to touch on.
Yeah.
How sports really defines people sometimes, and not only that, but it just makes it easier for you to go into any environment and just be friends with open arms.
Right. Yeah. I mean, one of the things. I mean, we're going to touch on a lot of things, but the idea that sports really does build, like you said, community and bonds.
Right.
Like, I mean, total strangers like yourself. I mean, I remember touch football is a great example. I mean, you're around a bunch of people, kids, adults. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
Right.
And just a simple touchdown, what that does, especially when you care about winning. I mean, that's another thing too. The competitive aspect. All of you were trying to achieve the same thing. It doesn't matter really how.
Right.
And you could be, I can speak a totally different language than you, but we have the singular thing that we're trying to get to, and there's something very profound about that.
Yeah.
I think it is that transcendent thing. Like this game, the win is bigger than me, it's bigger than you, it's all of us. So like you scraping your elbow, and winning the game, I think probably made you feel that in the moment. Was that like genuinely the first time you think that you felt that like, whoa, this is a different feeling right now I'm having from this experience of sport?
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing I remembered from high school vaguely also is we had left school early one day, and it was me and 5 other guys, and I was like a nerd, right? So I would just stick to myself. But they wanted me to play some basketball, so I went out there, and one of the guys during the game, our team was winning, and I had the ball, and it was outside the 3-point line. And the opposing player said to me, he said, "There's no way you can make that. Like, I dare you. You make that, I'll give you $5." And I just.
Oh man, Jay, lefty too,
lefty.
I just didn't expect a lefty on him.
And I was like, limit. And then I'm like, where's my $5? And of course, he didn't have it. But like those memories, I mean, they stand out in my mind. And funny thing is, in middle school, we would meet up with kids from like the Catholic school or wherever. We would go to my friend's house, and we would all get together and just play ball.
Right.
And it would be so bad sometimes that the next door neighbor for my friend, he would get so upset when the ball goes in his bar. And this is on Benedict Avenue in the Bronx. I lived on McGraw. Benedict was the next street over, so it's close to home. Maybe 10 minutes more from the school, MS 127. And we were playing. The next door neighbor, he would always be home. I don't know if he didn't work.
Right.
But I remember one day he got so upset, he kept our ball.
Oh,
He
man.
said,
He tossed it back over.
he told my friend Ryan, he said, you and your cronies, you just creating havoc over here. No, you need to stop it, But of course, we just ignored him, got another ball, playing again, and he never did.
But see, like, who knows his situation, but could be that, maybe there was some jealousy, but it's like, clearly he's probably hearing you guys play, maybe he's alone, and this is kind of where we're getting back to the communal aspect of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that kid, maybe he's isolated, maybe he's playing video games, by himself, and who knows, but there was something about that clearly triggered him, and it probably was that in some ways. Maybe there was a yearning for him to, hey, you want to come play with us? But that's messed up. He never gave you the ball back, I'm assuming.
No, but for a kid growing up in the Bronx, I live in Rochester, and our neighborhood was strange at times. Like my brother got held up at gunpoint for his money. My uncle did. We're arrested where we live. So sports was one of the ways that kept me out of trouble.
Right.
Instead of going and smoking weed or doing whatever some of the other kids were doing, every day, I would just look forward to that school bell ring or we're out of school, and my focus is A, I'm gonna go ride my bike with my friends, or B, play basketball, or C, go into one of their homes with video games,
Right.
which is at the time was like Sega Genesis,
Right.
things like that. But I much prefer being out there um, all day. I play basketball even on weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And see, in where I grew up, we were in a 2-bedroom apartment in the Bronx. There was 9 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
And it felt like a prison to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because coming from Guyana, we lived in a house. We would go to school and then we would come home and play in the yard all day
Right.
till nighttime.
Sun to sundown.
Yeah. Then your mom didn't have to call you,
Right.
right? We would just come in, then it's supper time, and then bed.
Very similar.
Right.
Very similar.
So in the Bronx, you can stay inside and watch TV all day, or you can, do whatever. But for me, it was like a sense of freedom. There was a sense of freedom to go outside and play with my friends, because if I was in that apartment, maybe, my grandparents would be upset at us for just being kids and making noise.
Mm-hmm.
And I would feel like enclosed, I just couldn't stay in there. It was too much stress.
Right.
So my way of de-stressing myself and getting out there was just being with my friends and playing ball.
Yeah. Getting outside around, I mean, something about too. I mean, I think of, grabbing the ground with your feet. I mean, there's so much to it. I mean, again, the beauty of this topic is, sports, it has, I really tried to think about it. Like, what downsides does it have? I mean, for your injuries, but you're becoming one with your body. You're learning how you move. You're it's great for your health, your cardiovascular. I mean, every study will show that. But I do think the biggest thing is play. It's the play aspect of it.
Yeah.
There's no strings attached to it. It's just free play. And yeah, that's very similar to my upbringing. I mean, I lived in Indiana. We used to, back when you did do this, lived in a suburban neighborhood. Used to go outside. I had a buddy that lived down the road from me. His name was Jake. And same thing. We would go out. My mom would just expect me to come wandering back in whenever. It was not uncommon for him to come in the house.
Sure.
Outside. Tackle football, touch football. You scrape your knees. Sometimes it's okay. We used to come in there, remove a Band-Aid my knee, pat it up, and then you're right back out again. So it seems so foreign now to see that. This is why I think the topic is important, because it's like sports are very pivotal for not only us as a species, but I think for kids.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, what you said was very important. I think it also prepares you for a lifetime of healthy living.
Yeah, it does.
Because, like, for me, I didn't get involved with team sports. Right, I was not even the first generation. I was an immigrant. Right.
Yeah.
And when I saw my own kids, my kids, when they were little, they saw me watch basketball. I love basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to enjoy watching the games on TV, watching Michael Jordan, every series, right? It was kind of, he was a hero for me growing up in the 90s, watching him on TV, right? So my kids saw the passion I had for basketball, but sports in general, because I love big sport sports and things like that. But they saw it, and they kind of got into sports at a young age. Now, we got them involved in team sports. I coached basketball for a few years, right? At the elementary school, right? Just AU equivalent,
right?
Team coach. But to see the progress my kids had made when they were my age, it was like way more advanced than me at my age, because I didn't come from a sports history or background, whereas they saw me now and they kind of had a little more, they were a little more in tune,
right,
with just getting involved in sports and just being a little bit more gifted, I would say.
Right.
Because somebody from, even when I was 9 coming here, I never played basketball. So starting to dribble the ball, it was kind of awkward at first.
Right.
And then you get used to it and then you become good at it. But seeing somebody who was 3-4 years old doing that, you're building that skill set very quickly, right? So they let the level that they can achieve is way more advanced than I could have achieved. Now, when they have kids, they're going to need even more.
Yeah,
Right?
just keep more.
So it's kind of like it goes from one generation to the next. But going back to what you mentioned, without going too far on topic, is I feel when you play sports like you did, team sports in high school, I feel like it prepares you for a lifetime of healthy living and proper dieting, or at the very minimum, it makes you more self-conscious and conscious about just your body. I mean, you went in tune with your body. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I mean, I played soccer, obviously, and soccer's, essentially soccer players are almost dancing with the ground, 24/7. I mean, you're using all of your body, but it's really your feet. So you become very in tune with your lower body, how your hips move, and I think that does something for your confidence. It does something for you as you get older. And I don't know really kind of how I would be like without sports. I mean, I think that it's helped me, health wise. I mean, I'm fairly leaner now. I almost wonder what I would look like had I not played at all.
Do you feel like your body type was not this way, but potentially could have been a different body?
Maybe. Because I was like you said, I started young. I think 3 and 4 is like that threshold where like when you get a hold of something, you have a little talent for it. I think that's just when it's like you said, it can just be you're just like made to play.
Sure.
So right around 4, my stepdad put me into It was one of those where it's like as soon as I touched the ball, he's like, yeah, that was what you had to play.
Wow. So you reckon that he had almost the wherewithal to see that in you,
right?
Which is nice, as a parent to know like what your kids are good at.
Yeah.
Not good at. So.
And he knew the idea of pushing me. Obviously, you're very uncomfortable when you're 3 or 4. You don't know what you want to do, but then you get that ball, or if you have some talent, it's just there. I mean, you can't argue with it. A lot of times, I feel like you can see it very early, 3 or 4. And I think even playing back film, there's small little films of me when I was really young. You could just tell that there was some aptitude there. Not a professional by any means, but you could tell there was something I was doing that the other kids were not catching on to as quick. And that's kind of what I wanted to obviously segue into, which was, the idea that sports really can help you find your latent abilities very young. And it doesn't even have to be the fact that I can kick the ball in the goal a lot. It could just be like, well, maybe I'm very good. I'm a good visionary player. I see a lot of things. Okay. So maybe I'm someone who has a foresighted mind, or versus maybe somebody who's just very fast, just very athletically gifted. Yeah. Maybe versus somebody who is a team leader. Very vocal. I mean, some of these things, they are very latent. I feel like it's hard to teach some of those things. I mean, you ask like someone like Lionel Messi to be like the vocal leader. He's not really that. He's just extremely gifted at the game. Right. And he leads by example.
He's a silent leader.
He does it through his actions. But I think that, certain players, the outspoken ones, I do think that those are latent, I believe. I think you can cultivate it. But what do you think? I mean, I think certain things you can, but I think like these latent qualities, they're just there. And you kind of grow on them and grow on and grow on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a parallelism between sports and conventional education, right? I think that
yes,
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I do,
and they're both equally important. And I think that just like when you go into school and then you start getting into high school, you start kind of figuring out what you're good at. I think sports is the same way, but it happens at a younger age. Where you will find out at some point what your natural innate abilities are, and then you want to hone in on those abilities. And then that's how you race to the next level. And then when you get to that level, then you kind of fine tune a little bit more. And then you tighten things up a little bit more, you get to the next level. Right. That's how you grow in sports, I think. Yeah. I think you start out like as a broad spectrum, and then you kind of get narrow.
That's it.
In your abilities.
And then that's why the game, it's beautiful. Their positions. It's like clearly every position has this aptitude that this player has. Yeah. A point guard obviously is shorter by his physical, his prowess, but he's also very good at dribbling. I mean, it's just like he has to be. That position is required. It's faster. Yeah. Maybe he is the quick passer. He sees that. The 7-foot center obviously is on his sides, but he's maybe stronger. Then you have kind of I feel like the Kevin Durant's, like those kind of guys where they can kind of do everything. They're just and that's a special kind of player, because that seems to be something that really is almost just completely, it's gifted. I mean, it's like you have everything. Most people kind of one, and it's just like very specialized.
That's right?
Yes.
That guy is almost 8 foot tall, right?
I mean, what he did.
They're very exaggerated, but his wingspan. You know, he can literally touch your rim. And look at the moves. You know, he's very flexible.
Yeah.
He's very, very flexible.
For his size, it's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, but sports really, and here's the other thing too. Like, not everybody's gonna get to that level. Right?
No, of course not.
It's like you start with 1,000 kids in a school system. You know, 15 of them will be on the basketball team or football team, 30 of them, whatever. And then you kind of get to college, and then now you have 1,000 schools, and then that'll come into one, which you know, so you get a smaller groups as you attain higher and higher levels. But isn't that the way corporate life is, or just the corporate ladder, or you know, it's like everything you get smaller and smaller groups until you get the best of the best.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. And so part of that process though is that it's competition that causes
That's
that.
exactly it. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I think it can do. It inherently is it teaches you I'm going to compete against you for this cause, and it's not like I hate you. It's just you're the barometer to see if I can attain this thing. Right. And without that, I don't know how. I mean, how do we progress? How does anyone? How do we measure each other so that you can be the best fit point guard on the team? You know, and I just think you're right. In the corporate world, it's the same thing. I mean, nowadays everything is like analytic driven in the corporate world, so that can be great. You know, I think sometimes it can lose a little the art of stuff that sports always shows. Like sports is great at showing you art as well. It's not I don't know. Some certain sports are becoming very analytic driven, but I do think that without that competition against other people, sports loses its power. You know, and I think that there might be a danger in some sports out there trying to kind of do that. You know, the equalizing of everybody. Right. You know, the everybody gets the trophy. Everybody. I mean, I remember, my parents were fairly harsh on me when I was younger. You know, if I scored 2 or 3 goals, came off the field, good job. But there's always, John had 4 goals last game, so good job. But there's always more room for improvement. And I think that although it's nice to get the pat on the back, I think that sports instinct to always know you can do better and better because somebody else is doing that.
So there's a certain drive. And some people have a more of a drive.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So it's like certain people will be just happy with losing.
That's it.
But competing, we did a good job, but we lost. Okay. Right. But that's not gonna get you.
That's
the championship.
That's right.
That's not gonna get you the championship. Like you have to be a sour loser.
That's it. You have to be. You have to be bitter.
Right. Yeah. And I think just to take that and to apply it to like just society in general, like when you look at like the greatest civilizations, they all go to war, right? They all go to war. They all fight for something, whether it's territory or human rights or freedom, whatever they want to call it, right? But war is something that I feel you have to be the best or try to be the best. You have to have the best technology, you have to have the best weapons, you have to have the best personnel, strategy, all of these things. So in a way, I think sports will always be part of society because it sort of prepares us for the best and worst of what is to come. For instance, it's like, I think sports, because you're so driven and because you're so competitive, it gives you that driving spirit, that competitive spirit that will be essential in a war situation. So I think as far as human beings, as we can go back in terms of history and look at civilizations, you see that war always existed, but sports existed hand in hand.
Right.
And while they're not at war, they were, racing, doing all of these athletics,
Remember the domes, the Coliseum over there. I mean, to death.
Gladiator. Yeah. So people are always fighting and competing to see who's the best.
Right.
And in preparation, that's what it's for. I think it's prepare yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. So when there is a war, you'll be ready as a population.
Right. It teaches you stakes. Because if you're let's say you're the country that's at war that doesn't have stakes, well, you're just going to get walked over. Right. Because you never had anything to compete against. And I think that, that's, again, to your point, that's something sports always gives you is high stakes. Everybody cares. Even if you don't care, 99% of the other people do care. I think that's the beauty of it. And then there lies the transcendent part of it. Like, I remember, and I'm sure you've been around people like this, you do have these extremely gifted individuals at sports. I remember there were kids I played with, they could have definitely went on to play pro. They wanted, scored 4 or 5 goals a game. After the game, get on their phone. Like, the stakes were not there for them at all, and the whole team's stakes were higher than the best players on the team. And then you realize that once you get in that final game and that most talented player is not able to rise to the care level, the stakes of the game, the whole team hurts, so it transcends his ability. He could be that gifted, but the fact the team and what they do to win the game is above him. And I think that it humbles those players. It humbles the extremely gifted, because the gifted part of it is actually not as important as the camaraderie and the willingness to compete for the higher thing.
I mean, I think that's a valid point. I think that physical traits or abilities and the genetic traits or abilities, I think it matters in the beginning. I think, like you said, when you're 4 years old, you can see somebody has a tendency towards this sport versus that sport, or they can hone in on certain things like dribbling the ball versus kicking the ball, right? Like you kind of put it in soccer versus basketball. But when you get to a certain level, I think it's that competitive mindset. It's a winning spirit.
Yeah.
That the heart or your heart, right? Same thing in boxing.
Yeah.
You can have all the physical abilities and the talent,
Right.
but then there's something else to that formula that takes you so far. But to become an elite in boxing or mixed martial arts or swimming, whatever, track and field, I think that sometimes the most gifted players don't make it to the top.
They don't,
because they're my hypothesis on this. It's not grounded in science. I think that the reason why they don't make it to the top sometimes is because they take it for granted.
They do, and you probably could feel this. I think everybody could feel that in their own field that they're more gifted at. It's almost the equivalent. We're not the best ever, but we're a little better than most, so we tend to kind of be a little bit more. This comes easier to me naturally, so I'm not going to try as hard. And I believe it's not grounded in science that a person feels a little bit. There's something intriguing about that. It's kind of like there's like a gratification in the self where it's like, I'm not going to have to try as hard as this person. That's nice to know. It's nice to know that I have the ability to do that over someone else. And to your point, that other person who's meeting them there might not compensate in talent, but beats them in drive. And there it goes.
And then I think when you are very talented, you don't experience enough losses or defeats.
Yes. Yeah.
I think defeats and losses when you've been knocked down, I think it really does give you strength and power.
Yeah.
And it gives you more drive and more determination.
Right.
Which is sometimes it's necessary, right? So through defeat, it's like a loss is sometimes a better teacher than wins. And kids will tell you that, or adults, or like if you watch the Bulls in the 90s, Phil Jackson will say that, that when his team loses, they would learn from it. There's like a teaching moment, and they come back even stronger. And some people can recover from the loss, and some people it beats them down.
It crumples them.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
And I think that's independent of physical traits or talent.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest. I think that is the biggest measure of the ability of somebody to be able to to go above the loss, to meet the person there and recover from it. I think that's why the underdog stories are always the most appealing. The Rockies, and those.
It takes a level of determination and drive to train even harder. But you have to ask yourself, like for athletes, what motivates this person?
Right.
Like for instance, what motivated you as a soccer athlete in high school?
Well, it's funny. We're talking about it now. I was definitely one of those where the ability was usually a little bit, more than most people I played. I hit a plateau, obviously in college, and then they're like the fallout, because my passion wasn't in it. I lost the passion, I think at the beginning it was just love the game. I mean, I do genuinely love the game of soccer, football, whichever one you want to call it. But there did come a point where, it becomes a job, You know, it feels like a job, even though you love it. And those players that go to the next level, that's because they want it to be a job. And I think for me, it fizzled away and became too much of a work for me. Whereas I love the game, you know, it became too much about worrying about your body because you have to, you know, but you miss out on other things in life, you know. And I maybe enjoyed things other than playing all the time or getting up. And I think that's very common for people. I imagine all the people that had the potential to go play pro, like maybe myself, I don't know, but they fizzled away because their heart wasn't in it. You know, the person next to them took it, like you said, to the next level, and they're playing, you know, professionally now. But I think it was the love of the game at first, and then I came to kind of that realization that it just wasn't my career.
So if you had to go back and like coach yourself, right?
Yeah.
And say, I'm not saying you should choose that path, but if you had to go back and say, hey Matt, let's figure a way to take this to the next level.
Yeah.
Like, what advice would you give yourself? Like, how would you get more heart, or is it just not for you?
You know, I think my problem was, and it's good we're having this conversation, is the influence of other things that pull away your attention from your craft. You know, like for a lot of young men like myself, it was video games. You know, video games. When you're not playing sport, you're playing video games. And all the time you could be playing, you know, or working on your craft, you're playing video games, you know. And I think I played a lot when I was in high school.
So like unregulated.
Yeah, just too much freedom in that. And because somebody else is working on their craft, and they're compensating for my talent and their physical ability to work out and do drills. And I think that deteriorated my conscience from the game. To the point where I became lazy. I mean, I remember I went into my preseason, my freshman year. I went to Catawba, and I was like the most out of shape on the team. Because the whole summer we got a packet that was probably this thick of stuff we had to do, sit-ups and diet. I didn't care about any of it. When I went there, I was the most out of shape. And I could still show up for games, but I would just get burned. So it was embarrassing.
So it was your lack of preparation.
Yes.
Lack of time.
Yes.
Invested in the game, basically.
Yes. So I think if I would have honed in on that, to your point, if I would have honed in and removed the distractions, I probably still would have been playing. I would have probably went on to try to play pro if I could.
So what advice would you give to like a parent who has a talented kid in high school, when they start to get distracted? Like, do you feel that kid would regret not putting full focus into that sport since they started at, say, age 3 or 4? Or do you feel they'll be like you're almost like indifferent to it now?
Right.
Or are you indifferent? I don't know.
I am a little indifferent to it because I guess in some ways I'm comfortable now with where I am. I don't have too many regrets, but I know for a fact that there was another world where I could have done that. And I think if I were to advise parent, being in the mind of a kid like that, I would say just try to lean into more of their drive, maybe a little discipline around things that can take their mind away. Because sometimes I think the kid might want to or the younger adult might want to lean in more to their craft.
Sure.
But maybe their friends or outside sources pull them away. And you think of the greatest people who ever are in their craft, that just doesn't happen.
No.
It doesn't. They are so immersed. It's like this 10,000 hours is going to happen, now. And if anything is intruding on that, I think it takes you away, and it might even it kind of puts the fire on a little bit. So I would say, try to remove those distractions. Don't take everything away from them. You still want them to, be free to do what they want, but I think a little modulating of their ability. Maybe a conversation like you had, like what would the worst case scenario is maybe this isn't for you, but at least you're going to give it your all until I don't know, college or your end of your high school, because that's typically where you do start to see, okay, I have a place in this world. Like I'm getting the emails from the coaches. I'm getting the people that are scouting me.
Right.
So, I'm curious for you. What would you say? I mean, with your experience of maybe disciplining individuals or like leaning in to what they're good at, would you say that it'd be best to kind of like lean all the way into their ability, or let them find that?
It's tough to say. Like with my kids, I know one of my sons, right? You know, he played high school ball, and he had the ability to go to like a Division 3 school and be on the team. But I don't think he wanted to be in a Division 3 school. I think he wanted to be in a Division 1, 2 school,
Right.
and it just didn't work out in his. I don't know if it didn't work out in his favor. I think if he really wanted to, he could have made it happen. But I think, just as you felt, I don't think his heart was there fully, 100%.
Right.
He loves the game, but I don't think he loves the day work.
That's it.
You know, 3 times a day, workouts, whatever, 2 times a day, and all the traveling and everything. So that brings me to this. I think to get to the highest level of sports, I think it is a job.
Yes.
It's like any other job. When you're the best in your field, you have to put 80 hours, $100 a week. That's all.
That's all
Right? If you don't want to do that, then you're not going to be the best at it.
Yeah, you won't.
So it doesn't matter if it's sports or it's you're a doctor or whatever, you're a business person. It doesn't matter what it is. To be the best at what you do, you have to put the work in.
Yes.
So sports is no exception.
Yes. So yeah, I agree. I think that without that instinct, it has to come along for the ride. It can't just be the talent. I guess that's the way that it has to be.
No, it has to be dedication. Like I think the individual is usually like self-motivated. I think there's no specific thing that motivates them. Like one of my daughters, both of them actually, they are self-motivators. Yeah. They can just get up and motivate themselves to do whatever they need to do. And I think it takes that to an individual to really accomplish things.
Yes.
On their own.
Yes.
And they can go as far as time takes them.
No.
There's no limit to sports or any other, fields in life. They can be the best at what they do. But in sports also, I think it has evolved. It has evolved. So beyond the self-motivation, I think if you have a good team around you, so that's the difference between 10, 15 years ago and now, is that these players at the highest level, they have teams of doctors, therapists, physio, scientists all around, dietitians,
all analytics,
and they really, even if the person is not able to self-motivate, it's like they have a structure holding them up.
Right.
So even if they want to fall, they can't. Right. Because they're on a schedule. They're on a diet. They're on this. It's like they have a scheduler. Right. So every part of their life is being managed.
That's right.
So literally, it's like a scaffolding around them. Yeah, so even if they go on the ledge and they try to fall off, they can't.
Yeah, they get blocked in by.
Yeah, at least for a time being while they're in contract or whatever it is, right? And I feel like that has helped all sports in general to evolve to this level we see it at now, where whichever sport you look at, you see that it's evolving so much and the players are becoming more talented. The game itself is changing very rapidly.
It's quick.
And it's all evolving. It's evolving every single day.
Yeah.
Because everything, like you said, is very statistics driven.
Yes.
And they'll figure out, okay, well wait, you're short on 100 calories. All right, let's introduce this. Okay, you need half an hour more sleep. All right, you gotta cut your schedule back a little bit. And so what you're doing is you're creating the best athlete possible for that person. Like you're basically bringing them up to their full potential. Yeah. And whether it's for a year or 2 years or 3 years, that depends on the individual. But I think the way sports teams are set up, I mean, they have these organizations, billion-dollar organizations, right? So the resources are there to support the athletes.
Right.
And that could be a good thing, but also it could be a bad thing, like we see in sports with injuries, like you mentioned, right? So injuries is a big thing where, for instance, if you're playing basketball and not even college, but you already played 20,000 hours of basketball, your king said is not going to be the same.
Right. It's worn.
Yeah.
Definitely worn.
Yeah.
We see examples of that,
especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs. These guys put countless hours. That's something they're actually kind of trying to work on with some sports, is the training itself, has to be to a certain degree because these guys are playing so much and they are like machines. There's more games, there's more, it's high intensity. So that's an interesting.
Tatum,
Yeah.
right? He tore his Achilles tendon, and my son was telling me that he's already playing.
Yeah, he is.
6 months since it gone by.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, it would take a year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Look how he worked in the time frame now. It's like half the time for a person to get from full torn Achilles tendon to back on the court playing. Like
Unreal.
I never think ever happened.
At the highest level.
Yeah. How's it ever possible?
I don't know. Yeah, it's science. I mean, it's exciting, but to your point, it's something that you have to be able to be willing to get on that train. You have to be willing to train. That's another thing. I mean, I remember getting injured and being like, "Oh, the recovery." You got to be all in on recovery.
You have to be all But I think part of where they're at as an athlete, like you take somebody like Jason Tatum, they have all of these resources around them that they are very intelligent players.
Yeah.
Right? Because not only do they play a game constantly, so it's second nature to them, they have all the training around them.
Mm-hmm.
So they will adhere to the protocols when it comes to physical therapy and occupational therapy. And, just in the healing part of it, they can heal faster because they adhere to the team around them.
Yeah.
Whereas 15, 20 years ago, it was not as well-rounded.
Right.
So that goes back to just having that support system.
Yes.
Whereas athletes didn't have 20 years ago.
Right. It is true. I mean, you look on the sidelines. I don't know if you noticed this. There's more coaches, more guys with hats on. There's almost a job for everything.
I was the only one noticing that in football.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching like the Chiefs game not too long ago, and I was like, how many? Oh, it's still the Chiefs. So I was like, how many coaches do they need? Is this all staff? Some of these guys are reserve players, but I mean, there's a coach for everything. I mean,
you got a defensive coach, offensive coach, but then within that, subcategories of coaches,
right,
which is pretty interesting. And that means if there is a flaw somewhere in the system, they'll find it and fix it.
That's right. Exactly. It's another person to find the issue on the team.
Yeah.
Which leads me, in some ways, I was going to go into. No, let's go ahead and do this. So we talk about the analytics of the game, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's coaches. I'm sure they have multiple meetings a day trying to figure out this formula to win.
The winning formula. Everybody wants to figure it out. That's $1 million question.
That's it. I mean, they sit up there with their projectors, dissecting every part of the game. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, obviously, I'm going to shift kind of the conversation to us as like consumers.
Right.
Do you think that the need to win, the analytic-driven part of the game, has we've lost a little the art of the sport? In your observation, I mainly watch soccer. I've been watching more basketball lately. I watch a lot of hockey. I don't watch tons of football in that way. I've watched a couple of games. But in your experience, have you observed that? Do you think that things become a little more mechanical? The stats on this is 0.08% of his thing here, and then they put up another stat here. But we want to remember the creative instinct. Sometimes we're missing that, as a consumer.
Well, I can give you an analogy, like with chess, right?
Yeah.
So I used to watch a lot of chess. I used to play chess a little bit too.
Yeah.
But like with chess, when the players like Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura and Anders Giri and all these players, they use the computer for training, for preparation,
right?
And so it's computer driven. So like the open A's and middle game, and they can memorize like 20, 40 moves, right? And each player now knows how to prepare for each other open A's and things like that. So then you get through, and most of these games, if you sit there and watch like the passive games, it becomes almost a little boring,
right?
Because it's like they anticipate each other's move, or they train so much with the computers that it's almost not human.
Right. It's like built into a code.
The feel of the game is not human, like a human feeling. Now, when they play these rapid games, these shorter games, it's more open to human error, and those games to me are the exciting.
Yeah, because you're kind of relying on your first, you're not really dissecting.
You can't do a deep dive and analyze the game.
Right.
You just have to play by instinct.
Yeah.
And those games to me are more exciting. So just to take that and make a parallel to sports, I would say in some sense as a sports consumer watching from a distance, I can say that like from a personal experience watching basketball as a kid and swimming and track and field, it was more of an individual sport, regardless of if it was a team sport or an individual sport. There was a lot more individual involvement in the sports back then, where now it's like there is still individualism and ability to showcase your art, right, and talent in the games, but it's
Very minimal.
But just cut down a little bit,
Right.
So you do get that, but the games are almost like like in a football game, anything can happen at the end, but for the most part, it can be predictable at times.
Yes. Right. It becomes kind of a problem where you can fill in the answer because this is like a puzzle, and I see where the puzzle's going.
Yeah, and that's because the sports are reaching such a high level that it's like playing chess.
Right.
It's becoming very analytical, very computer driven. Because the computer now is an extension of our senses. We use it a lot for statistics.
Yeah.
So the artistic part of sports, I don't think is going to go anywhere, but it has lost a little bit of its light.
Right.
That's the best way to put it.
No,
I totally agree.
I totally agree. And it's funny you say that because I was having a conversation with a friend recently, and I said, everything is kind of memory. I mean, the field that you play on, it does become the more time we have with the game. These players watch it constantly. You do kind of learn behavior and pattern recognition. So it's almost to the point where it's like, unless you are the 1% that's the ungodly gifted, where you can figure out that problem better than anybody on the field, you almost have to change the field in a way to open up more creativity. You have to make the basketball court longer, you have to make the rim higher, or you have to add another player on the court so it throws something into the game that makes it different than what it's been forever. Because I've noticed that too. I used to watch a lot of NFL when I was a kid. I mean, I remember a guy, again, bring up the Chiefs, Dante Hall was a punt returner. He was so creative with his feet. He was able to find pockets. He would, back then you could punt return and actually score a touchdown. Now that doesn't happen. They figure out where you can go. They know how to cloister one side.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like as a fan or as a consumer, I can't help it. That's what these guys learn, but it has done something to be like, okay, now I know that we're gonna get 2 yards here and 4 yards here. And it used to be, someone would just break through, touchdown, out of nothing.
It's amazing though, like when you take sports though, and you see the number of viewers or the number of fans for all sports teams or all sports in general. I mean, do you know anybody that doesn't love sports?
Very few. Very few.
Forget all love. Do you know anybody that doesn't at least watch one sport or sporting event?
No.
Right? But here's the beauty. This kind of brings everything into light. With all the distractions that we have in modern day, with all the media we have, with all the hundreds of shows on Netflix and Amazon and all these TV, Hulu, Peacock, all of these TV programs and shows. Like I went on Netflix and I spend more time, or Amazon or Disney Plus. You spend more time browsing.
That's exactly right.
Because it's like you are bombarded with so many choices.
Too much.
But when all's said and done, we still subscribe to the football content.
And we know that's home base, really.
Yeah, right. I'll still put the game on and watch the game. I'm watching Yankees, because why? There's something that you gain from watching sports.
Right.
Live. That's exactly right. Live sports that you don't get from any other TV show.
Recorded 4 years ago, a decade ago. 100%.
No. And maybe when you're watching like a live show event, non-sporting event, you would probably feel the same way. But I don't think there's any other events than sporting events that people like. For instance, boxing. Okay, I used to enjoy watching boxing in the '90s when I was a kid, and then boxing kind of fizzled out a little bit. And now, like Dana White, UFC, he's trying to get the Saudis and trying to bring boxing back to to the heyday, you know, like the way it was. And I think they will. I mean, the Canelo fight was good.
Yeah.
You know, that was boxing at the highest
Highest
level.
level.
It was like watching a
Big
chess
chess
match,
match.
but an exciting chess match. But I think that sports, it's ingrained in our DNA.
It is.
There's something about sports that's built into us. We love competitive behaviors. We love competitiveness. We love, you know, basically, if we didn't compete, we couldn't innovate.
Right.
We couldn't move forward as a society.
No, we couldn't. We always need that. We always need that
Even when you take like the socialist countries, right? Like Russia and China,
Yeah.
they're very competitive in sports.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like it's a universal thing.
Yeah, it is.
no matter how exactly to your point, no matter how equal you want to be within your borders, you know, in the economy, it doesn't, you know, you're always going to have that. You're always going to have competition against something.
Competition, yeah.
And you honestly brought up what I was going to bring up next, because now we're talking about the consumer part of the game, not the player. Where what is the importance of sports for us as consumers in terms of the idea of immersion, you know, escapism? I mean, a little anecdote. I went through a little stint, probably like 2 or 3 years ago. I was reading a lot of philosophy, you know, and for anybody who listens, the deeper you read into philosophy, the more you kind of cut things down. You know, you make it you honestly observe it like it's a little piece of like a little fragment. And I got to a point where I was almost very critical of sports, because I'm like, look at all of these people just so serious about this game, where they're just throwing a pigskin around. Like you become almost, you know, it's like a pessimist. You know, I came out of that because, to your point, I realized like I couldn't help but to feel that way. My intellectual brain, you know, was working, but like my instinct was always in the game. So why is it important for us to always have it to escape? You know, you look to your right when you're at a football game and you see a bunch of guys painted up and they're just clapping away and they're fully for this game. You know, whatever happened before this is completely removed. You know, why is that, you think, and why do we have to have that? Why is that important for us? Even from like an economical, social standpoint, psychological standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend all day talking about the adverse things that sports causes in people's lives, or you know, the negative aspects of sports. Let's put it that way. But we're not going to do that.
Right.
You know, I think sports is like any other field. When I say field, I mean it's like an artist or a musician or a mathematician or a grandmaster or whatever it is, right? You or astrophysicist, right? Anyone that achieves the highest in their field is respected.
Yes.
You know, people love and respect them for the most part, right? Why? Because it takes grit, it takes work, it takes dedication, it takes all of these human traits that we really admire. It takes like a combination of all these traits, and you kind of mold it into one thing, and that's what you become, right? The best of the best of the best. So we have an affinity towards these players because we know ourselves as consumers that we are not capable. We're not in a position. We don't have the physical ability to reach that level. So we really do admire those players or those athletes.
Right.
And they're like a proxy for us.
The extension. Where we already see ourselves,
Yes.
where we envision ourselves in a perfect world.
Right.
Right? And so we really do admire these athletes, and it also shows what the human being is able to achieve when they put the work into it. So I think for those reasons, and there are numerous reasons we can list, but I think for those very simple reasons, I think people really have an affection for sport. Like they have a quality towards sport, regardless of your age, your gender, you know, your socioeconomic status, and all that. It doesn't matter. Sports is the great equalizer.
Yes, it is.
It is above everybody. Yeah. It's
Because you can go to work and you can talk to your boss about sports,
Right.
or you can talk to the guy
the customer, the
who,
client.
or you know, whatever.
Right.
You can talk to
And there's a
anybody.
connecting thread there always.
Yeah. Sometimes with my patients, you know, like if I have a patient coming in and I just don't feel like we're getting along, I just pay attention to like, like if you're wearing a Commanders. Yeah. So what's their record this year? Like, what's going on with them? And all it takes is one minor statement, and then it's just a nice conversation.
Right.
So sports is something that people can talk about all day and have fun talking about it. It's not like religion and politics. Yeah, those are the two topics that people shun.
Right.
And they kind of put it aside. Whereas sports is just you can compete and talk and have fun and be in different teams and say, well, come here,
There's banter underneath it that's supposed to be camaraderie, driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we always joke and say, you're a Dallas fan, so we don't welcome Dallas fans, right? And yell at that. Nobody thinks that stuff's interesting, right? But if you say something about, you're a Muslim,
right?
You're
a Republican and I'm a Democrat, right? That's totally. Now you're starting to question: do I need to be in this?
Man, you're starting a little more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But sports, you can have fun with it.
Yeah.
But we can talk about extreme fans and things like that.
But it happens.
Yeah, it happens. It's part of the game.
Yeah, it's part of the game. There's always an extreme person out there with their beliefs. But no, I was curious because I think sometimes I catch myself watching a game and I'm not a fan of the team, but I'm looking at everybody so immersed and I'm like, that is a human thing right there. That's human. That everybody is so focused on this moment. The punter about to step up to make the 50-yard field goal, and there's nothing else that matters but that moment. Everyone's locked in, and that has this transcendent power to it. So I never we'll never lose that, but I think it's always good to talk about it.
Yeah, like me as a fan, I love all sports, and I also don't have a specific team that I root for. I am open-minded when I watch a game, depending on how things are evolving in the game, or I see something with a player or an athlete, I may go with one team over the other.
Right.
Or I even if I'm a fan, say like I like the Chiefs or Mahomes, and they're playing Philly or whatever team they're playing, I may go for Philly that day because I see something in the way they're playing. Like when Philly was playing Tampa Bay the last game, they were both undefeated 3-0, and there was something in that game that I admired how Philly was playing. I admired the way they were pushing forward, and they're like you can see that they really were passionate for that win, and so I was rooting for that. Right. So I like being a fan of sports, but I'm not a fan of a specific team. I like being open-minded because I just go for whoever I want to go for at that moment. Right. People might say, he jumps in the bandwagon. Yeah. But again, we can have fun talking about that. But I'm a fan of human achievement. Yeah. And sports, there's no better way to really illustrate that.
Yes. So I think that it's always going to be something that we gravitate towards. I do think that it's evolving constantly, but I feel like we're always pretty good at figuring out a way to make it to where it's it's viewable. It is interesting though that even with the evolution of sports, there comes things that they're doing away with. Like I do think there's a lot of consciousness around like injuries, like we were talking about, like head injuries. So there is maybe even some science that comes up out of the
bad. I made a movie about that.
Yeah.
With
concussion.
Ray Harvey.
Yeah.
Ray Harvey brought it to the forefront.
Yeah. Very important conversation. A lot of these guys have been having issues. So how do they navigate that? There's an ethical issue I think there that maybe down the line they figure out. I don't know. That's a hard sport to.
It's a hard sport because you would have to change the dynamics and the way the sports is played, but then it wouldn't be football.
Exactly. Where it's like
you won't be football. They do have some rules like you shouldn't hit the quarterback, and I'm sure they have rules. A lot of rules where you protect the players as much as you can to a certain extent. But then again, this is what the athletes signed up for.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's not an unspoken, but it's just like when you get in the ring, there is some kind of agreement underneath this where it's like something really bad could happen to you in here. you know, but I'm willing to go through that because this is just it's my calling. This is my team. And I think most sports fans kind of agree with that, you know, in a way. Nobody wants to see anybody be paralyzed from a tackle or get knocked out clean where they're in a wheelchair.
Like, I don't think there should be 82 games in the NBA season.
I think
there should be maximum 60 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot. I mean, I think you're really asking a lot of the players.
And when you get to the playoffs, it's like, then you're more prone to injury because you're playing at a higher level.
Right.
And it's like you're already tired from the regular season. Now you're drained.
Right.
Now your body is going to give up. And that's why you see all those injuries last season in the playoffs with Jason Tatum, multiple players that tore their Achilles.
They're at the very end.
Yeah. But one of the things I want to go back and touch on is we were talking about people's affinity for sports. Like when I watch mixed martial arts, right? And you see two fighters. All right, there's no sport more healing than two human beings squaring up and facing each other in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
Right? And my favorite part of watching mixed martial arts is at the end of the fight, somebody will really knock you out, and you'll be unconscious, and they'll call and they'll hug you and make sure, are you okay? Once that bell, once the bell rings or the referee stops the fight, it's like now that savageness disappears and now the human part comes in.
Right.
And now, like, we really genuinely kill that other human being. And to see two fighters go at it, try to kill each other, you know, and then hug at the end, you know, after the war is over. It's like, it's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, it is.
It kind of humanizes everything. It makes everything okay.
Right.
You forget about, you know, you forget about the violence.
Right.
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 But I think that the violence it's necessary. Again, I think going back to what we said, I think it prepares you for war.
Yeah.
For bad things.
Right.
Defense,
attack.
But at the end, we can still be humans and we can still connect.
Right.
Which is pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a viewer, it's at least more comforting to know that, you know, these guys, any athlete, they're in the ring, they're in competition with somebody who, you know, they know that they have to do this to each other, you know. But there's also like a, you know, maybe a consumer. There's a certain state of mind. There's a certain psychology that happens when you're in that flow state. You know, you're in your trade. You're not really conscious about too much of the ethics. You're skillfully doing something in the martial arts, you know, but yeah, you're aware. You're not aware of the ethics of like hugging this person. You know, they do become your enemy in that. moment.
I mean, there was a lot of pushback when UFC was just starting out with Dana White, got involved in sports, and to just get it on mainstream TV. I think it was on like Spike TV, and finally got it on ESPN. But there was so much, you know, like pushback on the sport because it's so brutal, right? As a sport. But then you have the world that wants to watch it.
Right. Why do so many people show up?
It supersedes like this ethical discussion.
Well, that's what I was saying before. I think it transcends, and I fell into this as well.
It does
Transcends the intellectual part of what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's in here. It's an evolution. I think it's an evolutionary kind of adaptation to the love of what we've done for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, way before we even know what was going on back then with the gladiators and all that stuff. So most people think you could just do away with that.
I think it's a simple human need.
It's a need.
You know, to want to compete.
Yes.
Want to be the best.
Yeah, I think it comes from a survival instinct as well. I mean, you know, get into the craziness of it, but if there's a need to compete for something, a resource, a win, you know, there needs to be that. I think without that, what happens?
Yeah, maybe we're a spirit within a body, a physical body.
Right.
I think this body, we can let it fall apart, or we can work on it and make it stronger.
Yeah.
And sharpen the skills and make your, you know, your body and your mind and your emotion, they can work together at a very high level, and to achieve that, it's through sports.
Yes. Yes.
It's through sports.
We need that. We always need that. Well, I want to kind of taper off here with some of these ideas. These are bonus ideas. So, what do we think? Let's do the hot take debate. I like this one. I don't know if you're around or too savvy to a lot of the youth sports.
There's a lot of arguments. I was a soccer referee to where we need to try to make them more safe for kids. Now, the danger of that is you do lose the mega talented, super driven athlete that's never going to make it because he's kind of being pushed down, equalizing himself with everybody. Do you think that youth sports are too competitive today? And why do you think that we need to be aware as to the levels of competition? We need competition. We don't need to hold and stifle kids. I'll just give an example on this. So, like for soccer, they're being conscious of kids heading the ball, right? That can cause a head injury. You see kids head to head. I've refed a lot of games where kids go head to head. Yes, we have an issue if that happens. But a lot of people are pushing back and saying, well, why don't we teach these kids how to properly hit the ball? Why don't we make up for it in the technique rather than just throwing out the baby with the bathwater?
Right.
Let's teach. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So do you think that that's valid? Do you think that we should be careful? I mean, you have kids. Do you think that would you allow your kids to go ahead and do that sport and be careful with what you're doing? Or would you want to kind of hold them back to keep them safe?
I think it's no different from when you have kids and you're little and you're like, no, Johnny, don't touch the dirt. Don't prove that. If you do that to your kids, how are they going to learn?
Right.
Now, do accidents happen with kids? Of course. You can cover up your outlets, but let them play. You can put a little gate, but the steps shouldn't fall off and go down, right? Whatever. And so it's the same as right? I think sports, there's an inherent danger in sports, but you're not going to get to the highest level if you put guardrails up all the time.
Yeah.
I think that if somebody's good at something, you allow them to see how far they can go with it. With my kids, I can say that I allowed them to play sports, even when one of my daughters, she doesn't have vision in her left eye, but I allowed her to play soccer because how is this she gonna know what it feels like to play soccer?
Right.
And I was, I didn't, when she lost the games and stuff, I didn't say, well, you did good. I said, you can do better. Go out there and train more.
Yeah.
So I am open to the idea that you should let kids play and you should let the competitiveness spirit come out of them. With that said, I think that you can always look to ramp up the safety of the sport. Like, for instance, in your situation, you can teach them how to hit the ball properly.
Right.
I think that's a good idea. But to just say no, hitting with the ball with your head, and how is that going to prepare them for elite level soccer?
Right. And to your point, it doesn't benefit the better player in that situation, right?
Right.
Where they take away the ability of a kid that knows how to head the ball. That's always my counter to it. We have meetings as soccer referees, like what should we do? Or I know other sports have it. And a lot of us just say, well, we need to find better coaches. We need to find better training programs. Maybe we need to sit these kids down and tell them, well, maybe that's not the best one to go for. Education, certain education rather than like anything, just having a knee-jerk reaction and just throwing it away.
It's like riding a motorcycle. Like, when I got my motorcycle license, you have to go take the training course and then they teach you all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But you need some safety stuff. Like, can you go out there and ride and get into accident? Of course you can.
Yeah.
Can another car hit you? Yes. Can you run into a deer? Yes. Can there are all these dangers, right? But we're going to do it anyways.
Right.
Same with sports.
Yeah.
We can't let it stop us from playing sports. We just got to go out there and play. And if you don't want to put yourself in any danger, then don't play sports.
Right.
Simple as that.
Don't play the sport, and then you kind of bring it all back, and you are kind of missing something. You're missing pushing yourself. You're missing that competition.
I think life in general, you have to experience life. I think while we're on this earth, I think we have the opportunity to use the physical space and use our bodies and do something good with that. And sports allow us to do that. And if you don't do that, then you're missing out something.
You're missing something. For sure.
I think there's something missing there. But
For sure.
now, does that mean everybody should not play sports? Of course not. There are people who are not made for sports.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
They can at least watch it, right?
Right. They can watch it, and they can learn something from watching it.
you know, and to your point, there's always something within sports that carries over into other things, you know, even in the arts,
Yeah.
you know, it's the same. There's always an aspect of you're competing with the person next to you for maybe that audition or for that play, for that part. You know, I used to do that when I was auditioning for parts as an actor. You know, I wanted to get the part, so we were competing for it. That's what an audition is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think yeah, this was a great discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on all day about
Yeah.
sports, but I feel like you know, we really did dwell on the importance of sports in society in an individual's life and the advantage of partaking in sports as a youth.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's important.
yeah, I agree.
For all families.
Yeah. It was a good conversation.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you guys out there if you're listening. This is Sim. I'm Matt. This is the Social Blueprint. And yeah, we'll be trying to find some interesting ideas coming up. Maybe have some guests on. We'll see.
Yes.
We're exploring. You know, we're trying to figure it out. So
Yeah, we have some guests that's going to join us in a few weeks.
yeah,
And I think I'm very excited to discuss those topics.
yeah,
But thank you again for your
Yeah.
time. We appreciate it.
yeah. You know, hopefully see you guys next week.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Yep.